الله في الأراضين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. For the health and appearance of Imam Mahdi, loud salawat. We've been talking about the concept of taslim in Islam and its importance in tashayyu'. We say that it is one of the boundaries of tashayyu'. If you don't have taslim, if you're not submitted to Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, Ahlul Bayt, you're out of the Shia's boundaries, the Shia boundaries, the tashayyu' boundaries, and you're not Shia anymore. And we say taslim basically means to accept and agree to the teachings of Allah Ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And we talked about its importance. We say that it's about a confession. Taslim is about a confession, to confess the fact that our knowledge is limited and Allah Ta'ala knows everything. He's all wise, He's all knowing. And Allah Ta'ala has tested His prophets, like Prophet Ibrahim, with test of taslim. We mentioned that last night. We talked about the story of Bani Israel, how they were tested by taslim. Allah told them to sacrifice a cow and strike a part of that dead cow to that dead man to make him alive and tell people who had killed him. Well, they didn't know why they had to do this. And they were just doing it because God had told them to do so. That's the main, and we say the core of Islam. Are you submitted enough to Allah Ta'ala or not? It is so important that Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says in the hadith that أن العبادة على 70 وجها فتسعة وستون منها في الرضا والتسليم. Ibadah, acts of worship, has 70 different faces. And 69 of those faces is taslim, being submitted to Allah Ta'ala. And that one is about the other acts of worship, praying, fasting. That's why in this limited time that we have here tonight, in these nights, I can talk about the ahkam of fasting for you. I can talk about different ahkam of praying and going to Hajj, but I'd rather talk about taslim. Because taslim is 69 out of 70 of our ibadat. If you are submitted to Allah, I don't need to teach you about ahkam. You will go and learn yourself. You will learn that you will know its importance and you will come to ask me about the ahkam if you have any questions. What we need to establish for ourselves first and foremost is taslim. And we need to ask Allah Ta'ala to level up, to improve our levels of our level of taslim in these nights of month of Ramadan. Through the acts of worship that we do, through learning about Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and their companions. I'm going to share with you some stories from the time of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. These stories are, I believe, number one, obviously educational and motivational. They're motivational. I mean, look at how submitted these companions and Shias were at the time of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Zurara, who is himself a very important, not only a Shia, a scholar at the time of Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. He says that in our time there was a man who, whenever we mentioned a hadith, he used to say, Sallimu, be submitted. This is how much he was passionate for submission. For example, Zurara, because Zurara knew thousands and thousands of narrations from Imam Sadiq. He would come and tell people, oh, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said such and such about, let's say, fasting. He would rapidly say, Sallamu, everyone be submitted, accepted. Zurara says that it was to the point that we nicknamed him Sallamu. Whenever he came to the masjid, we would say, oh, Sallamu just came to the masjid. Oh, Sallamu is leaving the masjid. We nicknamed him by Sallamu. Sallamu means be submitted. We call him like that. We nicknamed him like that. And one day we went to Imam Baqir alayhi salam, and we told him that this man, he's so passionate about being submitted to you that he always says, Sallamu, Sallamu, be submitted. Imam says that, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُسَلِّمُونَ. Those who are submitted to us will succeed. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُسَلِّمُونَ إِنَّ الْمُسَلِّمِينَ هُمُ النُّجَبَاء. Those who are submitted are the noble ones. These nights we need to see how much we are submitted to Ahlul Bayt and Allah. Look at Muhammad ibn Muslim. Muhammad ibn Muslim, who had learned 30,000 hadith, 30,000 narrations from Imam Baqir alayhi salam alone, and 16,000 narrations from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. How many does that make? 46,000 narrations. Imagine each hadith, each narration carry one mas'ala shar'iyya, one case in regards to Islamic ruling. That would make it 46 cases of Islamic ruling. In our books of the Risala Amaliyah of our Maraja, we have about, I think, 4,000, 5,000 cases. This guy had narrated 46,000. Now, Muhammad ibn Muslim was from a very noble family. He was rich, his family was rich, he was rich, and he was from a very honorable and noble family. One day, Imam Baqir alayhi salam passed by him and just commanded him and told him one word, just one word. He said, Tawadha, be humble. Imam, obviously he has that wisdom. He knew that being in this status in the society is not beneficial for Muhammad ibn Muslim. He needs to lower himself down to the level of lower class and middle class family in the society. For whatever reason. Muhammad ibn Muslim did not ask, Ya ibn Rasulullah, why? How? Well, I can keep all the money I have and give it out to the poor people, right? I can be helpful to the poor Shias. Let me keep this money. Imam told him one word, Tawada, be humble. Allahu Akbar. He left all his money, his wealth, his status. He bought a bucket of dates. He went and sat on the ground by the door of masjid and started selling dates. As someone who would be in a poor class family, basically, a lower class family. His family members came to him and said that you're a disgrace to us. We are ashamed. Come on, you're from us, Muhammad ibn Muslim. You're sitting on the ground selling dates? You've forgotten about your, family status? What did Muhammad ibn Muslim say? Muhammad ibn Muslim said that my Imam amarani mawlai bishay'in. My master Imam, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam has commanded me with something that I will accept and I will do, and I will not get up from here until I say all my dates. Imam told me to be humble. I have to lower myself down. Just imagine, can you do that? Imagine driving a Porsche, living in a $3 million house, and Imam walks by your house and tells you, be humble. Would you put that all away? And, buy an old car and leave that aside? Be humble. His family told him that if you insist, this is what we want to do. We will uh, uh, um, buy you a millstone and go and sit with the millers and try and start grinding wheat. That is at least that job has more inefficiency, and more status in society than just selling dates on the ground. Tawada. How submitted are we to our Imam Al-Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajhu Sharif? The story of Sahl al-Khurasani is a story that gives us, that must wakes us up. It's a warning to all of us in these nights. A lot of times we become arrogant. Oh, I'm praying, fasting, mashallah. Allah must love me for what I'm doing. But are we really Shia? Who is a Shia? Listen to this story. Sahl al-Khurasani comes to Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu was-salam. Let's have a loud salawat for his name. He says, ما الذي يمنعك أن يكون لك حتى حق تقعد عنه وأنت تجد من شيعتك 100,000. He said to Imam that, what has given you permission to sit in your house while you have thousands, hundreds of thousands of companions who are, waiting for you to call them so that they would come support you, they use their swords, right, and fight for you. And basically bring down Bin al-Abbas. They're here for you. Why are you waiting why are you sitting in your house? Don't you see that the Shias are being killed and tortured every day? And you have these many supporters and soldiers? Imam alayhi salam wanted him to understand how wrong he is. So Imam told him that, there is a tanur, there's an oven in the side of my house. And I'm going to ask you to go and sit in that oven. Sahl al-Khurasani turned to Imam and said that, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, please excuse me. I went too far, I believe. And I shouldn't have said those things. Sorry. Don't burn me, please. Don't burn me. And I was wrong. So as he was begging Imam to excuse him, Harun al-Makki walks in. Harun al-Makki walks in the house and says, Salamun alaykum, Assalamu alaykum, ya Ibn Rasulullah. He takes his sandals, he's holding his sandals, and saying, Assalamu alaykum, ya Ibn Rasulullah. Imam says salam back to him. And without explaining to him why and how, he just tells him that ألق النعل من يدك واجلس في التنور. Without telling him why you should do this, Imam tells to Harun al-Makki that go and sit in that oven, burning oven. What would you say if you were in the place of Harun al-Makki? I know I would say, come on, Ya Ibn Rasulullah. I have kids, to grow. I have 3 kids, alhamdulillah. And they are very young. I need to be alive to look after them. I have a house. I haven't written my will yet. Please, let me live at least another day. But Harun al-Makki doesn't ask a question, doesn't give it a second thought. He just walks to the tanur, to the oven, and sits in the oven. Now, the oven is in a way that Sahl al-Khurasani cannot see inside. What Sahl is thinking is that, Ya Allah, what have I done to this poor guy? He's burning in that oven, and now I'm sitting here safe. Imam continues talking to Sahl al-Khurasani. So how is Khurasan? Khurasan, the east side of Iran, Afghanistan. So how is Khurasan? How are the people there? As if nothing has happened. After some time, Imam alayhi salam calls Harun al-Makki and says, come outside. It's good enough. So he walks outside of the tanur, the oven, without being burned, by the blessing, by the miracle of Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu was salam. Loud salawat. Just like Ibrahim, who went to the fire but was not burned, he came from that oven, not being burned. Imam asked Sahl al-Khurasani, how many people like him do you have in Khurasan? Sahl said, La wallah, وَلَا وَاحِدًا. I swear to God that we do not have even one person like him. Are we Shia? Are we submitted? What would we do in that case? This should be the subject, the main concern of us Shias in these nights. What level of taslim are we at? Are we in that level that Abdullah ibn Abi Ya'fur came to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam and said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, Wallah, law falaqta rummanatan binasfain, فقلت هذا حرام وهذا حلال لشهدت أن الذي قلت حلال حلال وأن الذي قلت حرام حرام. Are we in that level? He said to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Ya ibn Rasulullah, if you take a pomegranate, cut it into half, tell me this half is halal, the other half is haram, I would say that whatever you said is halal, and the other half is haram. Come on. That's not possible. This came from the same tree. How can one side be halal, one half be halal, the other half being haram? If Imam tells you, he says this is the level of my submission. Even if you do that, obviously Imam never did that, but he's saying that this is the level of my submission. Can we say that to our Imam? If Imam Mahdi Ajjallah Farajah Sharif comes to us today, can we tell him that? That Ya ibn Rasulullah, if you take an apple and cut it into half, tell us one half is halal, the other half is haram, we are submitted to you? Aban ibn Taghlib, he was not a normal Shia. He is a person that we can call him a scholar in the city of Kufa. He came to Medina, the city of Medina, to visit Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. He asked Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam a question. He said that if a man cuts one finger from a woman, from a lady, how much should he pay as fidya, as blood money? Imam said 10 camels. If he cuts 2 fingers, how many camels should he pay as fidya, as blood money? Imam said 20. If he cuts 3 fingers from a lady, inshallah by mistake, how many camels should he pay? Imam says 30 camels. Well, then he asked, how about if he cuts 4 fingers? How many camels should he pay? Well, you might think that 40, right? 10, 20, 30, 40. But Imam said 20. Aban ibn Taghlib was out of his mind. He said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, we were in Kufa and we heard about this ruling and we say to each other that this is from shaitan. This shouldn't be from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. This must be from shaitan. It's impossible. Some people would think that these shubahat that are arisen in this time are new. They are not. They exist at that time as well. How is it that when we cut 3 fingers would be 30, 4 fingers would be 20, not 40? Imam said to Aban ibn Taghlib, أَخَذْتَنِي بِالْقِيَاسِ أَوَّلُ مَنْ قَاسْ شَيْطَانِ. You're making an analogy, you're making a comparison between 2 rulings. This is the ruling, this is the hukum of Rasulullah, that a woman will get the same amount of fidya and blood money until 1/3. After 1/3, it becomes half. So 4 fingers would be 20, 5 would be 25, and so forth and so on. This is the ruling of Allah. You don't understand it? Fine. Ibrahim couldn't understand why he had to kill his son either. You don't understand it? Fine. Bani Israel could not understand why they had to kill a cow neither. It's the ruling of Allah. Do you trust Him? Do you trust Him or not? That's the question. When it comes to taslim, the question is, do we trust God enough or not? أخذتني بالقياس والسنة إذا قيست محق الدين. Imam says that if you compare 2 rulings with each other, the religion would be demolished. There would be no religion left. Someone who was famous for qiyas was Abu Hanifa. One day he came to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam and told him, and Imam told him that you've practiced qiyas, meaning that you compare the rulings of two subjects with each other and give a ruling from yourself, not from the hadith, not from the right source, which is Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So tell me, how is it that a woman must do qadha for the fastings that he has missed in the month of Ramadan, but she should not do qadha, she should not make up the prayers that she misses during her period? If there's qiyas, why this? Why are they different? We don't understand. The wisdom is with Allah Ta'ala, and we don't have that understanding. And that's where the trust in God comes. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi, Imam al-Baghr alayhi salatu was salam, let's have a loud salawat for his name. Imam said, if you hear a hadith and in your heart you're disgusted, ishma'azza'an, if you're disgusted when you hear that hadith, as soon as that happens in your heart, you are out of wilayah. You are not a Shia anymore. Because basically you're saying that God said such and such. I have a different understanding. I have a different vision. I have a different logic than God. Imam said that خرج من الدين من الولاية عن ولايتنا. Imam said, even if you hear something, listen this carefully. Imam said that even if you hear something that is ascribed to us, for example, I come to you and tell you that Imam Sadiq, I heard from Imam Sadiq that Imam said such and such. Imam said, do not rush to say this is batil, this is false. Even if you have heard something contrary to that from me. Allahu Akbar. Even if you have heard something contrary to what he's saying from myself. Why? Imam says that sometimes we have to practice taqiyya. And I tell you something, and I say things that are contrary because of different situation that I'm in. But not that you have to follow those contradictory things, because it's impossible. But do not say it's batil, it's false. Wait for me. Inna hadithana sa'bun mustas'ab. Imams have repeatedly emphasized that our narrations are hard to concept, to digest, to analyze and understand. If you don't understand anything that you hear from us, do not rush to say that this is batil, this is false. Leave its understanding to us and say that I don't understand it, and Ahlul Bayt have a better understanding of this. And I would end with this hadith. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, فَلْيَقُلْ الْقَوْلُ مِنِّي. Try to say this more often. This is a short saying. But Imam said that try to say this sentence a lot. الْقَوْلُ مِنِّي. Let's repeat after me. الْقَوْلُ مِنِّي في جميع الأشياء قول آل محمد فيما أسروا وما أعلنوا وفيما بلغني عنهم وفيما لم يبلغني. What does it mean? It means that my opinion. Imam said that say this. Shias, try to say this more often. Al-qawlu minni, meaning that my opinion, my saying, my belief is what Al Muhammad believe, is the opinion of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. In the things that they have made public or private, in anything, in any matter that has reached me or hasn't reached me, I say anything that Ahlul Bayt say. Al-qawlu minni fi jami' al-ashya, in every single matter. قول آل محمد فيما أسروا وما أعلنوا وفيما بلغني عنهم وفيما لم يبلغني. Inshallah, we practice that to have that level of taslim of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And if you have that level of taslim on the Day of Judgment, it's beautiful. The hadith is in Tafsir al-Imam al-Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam, which says that those who are taslim, submitted, Those who don't question us, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Those who don't say why, how, where did this come from, why should I be doing this? It will be easy for them on the day of judgment. Allah will say to His angels that He was submitted, He did not question, so don't question Him when it comes to reckoning. Let Him run to the heaven. And those who are not submitted, the questioning and reckoning will be for them. That why did you do this? Why did you do that action? How did you do that action? You have to be able to answer, and you won't be. Inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will give us a great level, the highest level of taslim, by the barakah of these nights of month of Ramadan, and makes us, inshallah, amongst the companions of Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjala Farajuh Sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma ajjal liwaliyyika al-faraj. Allahumma ajjal liwaliyyika al-faraj. Allahumma ajjal liwaliyyika al-faraj. وجعلنا من خير أنصاره وأشيائه وأتباعه والمستشهدين بين يديه. صلوات. Please face the Qibla for dua iftitah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك، وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت